Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. I can't believe it, but we're over the halfway mark of the USFL regular season. It's week 6, and I'm going to go over every week 6 USFL game and pick which teams I think will win this week. Now, the USFL, the teams are really close in the standings because you've got no team that has less than 2 wins and no team that is undefeated anymore. So all of these games have high stakes for all these teams that are wanting to be able to still make the USFL playoffs. And the first game on deck in the Week 6 USFL slate is the Pittsburgh Maulers and the Memphis Showboats. And both these teams are 2-3. So whoever loses this game, it will be harder and harder for them to make the playoffs. And whoever wins will still have a really good shot to make the playoffs. So it's a big game. All of these games are really important. Pittsburgh, they're 2-3. And last week, they won against the Michigan Panthers 23-7. So they're starting to trend in the right direction. Pittsburgh, they started the season off really badly, but they have turned it around. And Michigan, while they're on a free fall right now, Pittsburgh was still able to take advantage of that and be able to beat Michigan. And Troy Williams, he was 15-19 for 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Had 10 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown. And a big reason why Pittsburgh's starting to win now is because Troy Williams is playing better and better. His dual threat ability is making it tough for teams to slow him down. He's starting to keep his picks at a minimum. He did have 1 interception last week against Michigan, but still 1 pick is okay as long as he doesn't turn the ball over any more than that. And again, his dual threat nature, being able to run the football, makes him a fairly dangerous quarterback. And it has to happen for Pittsburgh because their run game is not getting the job done. Garrett Groshek, he only had 11 carries for 22 yards. That's not very good. But Bailey Gaither had 4 receptions for 89 yards, and Isaiah Henney had 6 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. So the passing game's starting to improve. And although the Pittsburgh Maulers offensive line isn't the best, Troy Williams has been able to handle that because of his legs. And the Pittsburgh Maulers defense has actually been improving as the season's gone along. So this game is in Memphis. So it's on the road for the Pittsburgh Maulers, but they're playing some really solid football, and I think they'll have a really great chance to win this game. But Memphis, they are at home, and they're 2-3 as well. And just like Pittsburgh, Memphis is starting to play better as well. Last week, they beat the previously undefeated New Orleans Breakers. You can't get much bigger of a win than that if you're the Memphis Showboats, and they're 2-3 now. And if they keep playing at a high level, they'll still have a chance to be able to backdoor their way into the USFL playoffs. And Cole Kelly, he was 24 of 36 for 224 yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. He only had 5 carries for 4 yards. So Memphis is not that dynamic on the ground with their quarterback or their running game either, because Kareth White Jr. only had 14 carries for 29 yards. I think part of the problem is that Memphis' offensive line isn't the best. Really, the whole entire USFL struggles with the offensive line outside of maybe a team or two. But Cole Kelly, he was able to get the ball out before he was sacked majority of the time in that New Orleans game. He only had 1 pick, and he had a touchdown, so he wasn't too bad. He just did what was asked of him. And Memphis' defense, just like Pittsburgh, has been playing better football. The fact they only allowed New Orleans to score 10 points, a team that was doing a great job on the offensive side of the ball at the beginning of the season, but New Orleans started to taper off on that end. Memphis did a good job slowing them down. And J.J. Wilson had 5 receptions for 64 yards, and Vinny Papelli had 6 receptions for 62 yards. I think this should be a really solid game. It's really close. Both teams are improving. I think this could be one of the best games in Week 6 of the USFL, but I'm going to actually go with the home team. I think Pittsburgh will have a really good shot to win, but I'm going to go with the Memphis Showboats to beat the Pittsburgh Maulers 24-21 because they're going to have their home crowd. And since Memphis is starting to win, the home crowd should really show out. Pittsburgh's improving, but I think they will fall short in this game to 2-4, and Memphis will move to 500 at 3-3. Now, on to our next game, you got the Birmingham Stallions going on the road to the Michigan Panthers. This game is in Detroit, Michigan, in Ford Field, so it will benefit the Michigan Panthers, but Michigan was a team that started the USFL season at 2-0, and since then, they have lost their last 3 games. They just keep on slipping and free-falling, and I do not know where it's going to end for Michigan because right now, they're just struggling all around. And last week, the Birmingham Stallions had some struggle as well. They're 3-2, but they lost last week 27-20 to the Houston Gamblers, so they're starting to trend in the wrong direction as well. Alex Magoo, he did not have a bad game. He was 24-37 for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 carries for 76 yards. So he's a very similar quarterback to Troy Williams in the fact he can use his legs, and he is a guy that is turnover prone sometimes, but he did do a good job in that Houston Gamblers game on not throwing a pick, and he was pretty solid through the air. But Alex Magoo's not Jamar Smith. He's not as dynamic, but he's still solid. But Birmingham's defense just is not stopping teams as much either because they allowed Houston to score 27 points. I still feel like the Birmingham Stallions are a pretty solid team. They just have a bunch of injury issues going on. Bo Scarborough's still out. But C.J. Marable, he filled in admirably, having 9 carries for 43 yards. And Jay Sternberger had 4 receptions for 41 yards. And Adrian Hardy had 2 receptions for 38 yards. So the Birmingham offense is not too bad. They still are capable of putting up points, but their defense is a big problem. Shark Dog, Scooby Wright, he's still back there at linebacker, and he's playing at a high level, but the rest of the defense for Birmingham has been struggling. And this game is on the road, which I think could give Birmingham some issues, but the Michigan Panthers, again, have been really struggling. And the biggest problem for Michigan is the fact fact they cannot figure out who should be their starting quarterback. They need to pick a quarterback and stick with him because going with this two-quarterback system is not working. Carson Strong, he was 13 of 23 for 94 yards and a pick, and Josh Love was 8 of 12 for 68 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Josh Love was starting at quarterback for Michigan at the beginning of the season, and he was actually playing fairly well, but then he started to struggle, and once they benched him for Carson Strong that first time, Josh Love's confidence went down the tank, and I think he's really struggling to regain his confidence because he's not able to stay on the field because Carson Strong keeps coming in, and Carson Strong can't wrestle the job away from him because he's not playing at a high level either. Both quarterbacks are throwing picks, and Michigan's offense is completely stalled because their offensive line has regressed. Both quarterbacks are not playing at a high level, and Reggie Corbin, he only had 9 carries for 11 yards. At the beginning of the season, the running game was working as well because Josh Love was playing some good football, but now that neither quarterback is, the run game has stalled, and Michigan's offense is ground to a halt, and their defense is starting to tire out and not play at as high of a level either. Ishmael Hyman had 4 receptions for 43 yards, and Trey Quinn had 5 receptions for 40 yards. This is a make-or-break game for Michigan. If the Panthers want to salvage their season, they really need to win this game. They're at home. They've got their home crowd, and if they keep losing, their home crowd support will fade away, and they really need to win this game if they want to stay in the hunt for the USFL Playoffs, but I don't know if they're going to have anything in the tank because neither quarterback's playing at a high level. I do not trust the Michigan Panthers one bit right now. They have really been struggling, and while Birmingham has not been playing some of their best football either, I feel like the Birmingham Stallions are still playing at a higher level than the Michigan Panthers. I'm going to go with the Birmingham Stallions to go on the road and beat the Michigan Panthers 24-14 for Birmingham to move to 4-2, and the Michigan Panthers in danger of missing the USFL Playoffs falling to 2-4. Now on to our third game of the Week 6 USFL slate. You have the New Orleans Breakers, who just lost their first game of the season. They're now 4-1, and they're going on the road at the Philadelphia Stars, who are 2-3. It is a road game for New Orleans, but technically neither team is going to be benefited by the home crowd. The first two games, you're going to have a definitive home field advantage with the Memphis Showboats and the Michigan Panthers. Both of them will have their home field advantage, but not the Philadelphia Stars because it's in Detroit, and they have no home field advantage at all. But Philadelphia needs to win this game as well to be able to build off their momentum and try to get back on track to maybe get close to making the USFL Playoffs. But the New Orleans Breakers, they finally lost their first game of the season, so maybe there's some cracks in their armor. Last week they lost 17-10 to the Memphis Showboats. Memphis was a team that no one was expecting to beat New Orleans, and New Orleans looked fairly unstoppable early in the season. They're kind of reminded me of the Houston Roughnecks of the XFL, how they started out really well and then kind of started to slip in the middle of the season. But New Orleans, I still think, is a really good team. McLeod Bethel Thompson, he was 25 of 35 for 206 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He's not a dual-threat quarterback, so if he is not being protected, he can struggle and he can throw some picks, but he is a guy that has a fairly high completion percentage, and he does make smart throws. He's an older quarterback that has a lot of experience in the Canadian Football League and even some in the NFL, so I think he is one of the better quarterbacks still in the USFL. Wesley Hills at 14 carries for 38 yards and 7 receptions for 46 yards. He's a dynamic running back that's a dual threat, can catch the ball out of the backfield and run the ball up the middle. Jonathan Abs at 4 receptions for 51 yards, and Lee Morris at 3 receptions for 38 yards. And Sage Surratt had 6 receptions for 36 yards. So they have a plethora of receivers that can help out McLeod Bethel Thompson. Their defense only gave up 17 points to the Memphis Showboats, but their offense just could not get anything going, and they're going to have to change that if they do want to beat the Philadelphia Stars. And again, the Stars are starting to play a little bit better. Last week, they beat the New Jersey Generals 24-21 to help them get to 2-3. And Case Cook, as he was 18 of 30 for 125 yards, 4 carries for 21 yards. He did not have a great game through the air statistically, but he did just enough to be able to help Philadelphia to win because the rest of his team helped them out, and their defense was actually getting some stops, and he did not turn the ball over, which was huge. Matt Colburn only had 15 carries for 22 yards and 2 receptions for 11 yards. The Philadelphia Stars offensive line is not good at all, but they held up just enough for Philadelphia to beat New Jersey. Jordan Sewell had 4 receptions for 32 yards, Pro Wells had 3 receptions for 30 yards, and Corey Coleman had 3 receptions for 20 yards. The Philadelphia Stars have a solid team, and Case Cook he's been in the USFL now for 2 seasons with his head coach Bart Anderson, and they had a lot of success in other leagues as well. So I think the experience and familiarity for Philadelphia is going to help them as the season goes along to be able to potentially make the playoffs, but still, Philadelphia just does not have the team that they used to have. Their offensive line has regressed, and I still feel like New Orleans is the top team in the USFL until proven otherwise. Even though they did lose to Memphis, they're still 4-1. They have the best record in the league. McLeod Bethel Thompson is a really experienced quarterback, and the home field advantage isn't going to help either team, so it's not like the crowd noise is going to affect either team. I'm going to go with the New Orleans Breakers to bounce back and move to 5-1 and be able to beat the Philadelphia Stars 21-17 for the Stars to fall to 2-4. I feel like New Orleans, they're going to have just enough defense to stop Philadelphia, and their offense is going to find a way to score late in the game. Should be a really solid game. And on to our last game of Week 6, you have the New Jersey Generals traveling on the road to the Houston Gamblers. Now, again, this is another game that does not benefit either team because it is in Memphis, and the Houston Gamblers just do not have a good home crowd in Memphis, unfortunately. But New Jersey last week, they lost 24-21 to Philadelphia. New Jersey's an interesting team because they keep alternating wins and losses. They've played well at times, but they've also struggled at times as well. Kyle Lauletta, though, he had to come in for DeAndre Johnson because DeAndre Johnson got hurt. I do not know if DeAndre Johnson will be able to play in this game or not. But Kyle Lauletta, he was 10 of 12 for 111 yards and an interception. He had 1 carry for a touchdown. So I think that he didn't play too bad in DeAndre Johnson's absence. The pick was tough, which kind of proved to be the difference in how they lost that game. But he still wasn't terrible. DeAndre Johnson, he was 7 of 12 for 79 yards and 7 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Johnson, when he was in the game for New Jersey against Philadelphia, he played at a high level. He's a guy that is a dual threat quarterback just like Alex McGough and Troy Williams. So I think he is more dynamic overall for the New Jersey Generals offense versus Kyle Lauletta. But I don't think it's impossible for New Jersey to win if Kyle Lauletta is the quarterback because he did do a solid job. I just feel like New Jersey will have a better chance to win if DeAndre Johnson's in, but we'll have to find out if he's going to be able to play or not. Trey Williams at 8 carries for 52 yards, and Darius Victor at 12 carries for 49 yards, and Jamon Moore 5 receptions for 38 yards. New Jersey's not a bad team. You look at some of these teams that are 2 and 3. The way Michigan's playing right now, they are really struggling, and at times how Philadelphia's played at their 2 and 3 record, they've struggled also. But I feel like New Jersey, even though they just lost to Philadelphia, they're still a pretty solid team. The USFL, all these teams can't separate from each other, and the standings are really close, so it's going to make for an incredible finish to this season to see which teams do make the playoffs. But the Houston Gamblers, they're on the right side of that 2 and 3 because they are 3 and 2, and along with the Birmingham Stallions and the New Orleans Breakers, they're toward the top of the USFL with their record. And last week they were able to beat the Birmingham Stallions 27-20. That was a huge win because if Houston lost that game, they would have been joining the 2 and 3 club as well. But they were able to win that game. And Terry Wilson, he was 9 of 14 for 117 yards and a touchdown, and he had 6 carries for 41 yards. He had to play in the absence of Kenji Bahar, who was out. And Montel Cozart, he was 2 of 6 for 15 yards and 1 carry for -2 yards. He played a little bit as well. But Terry Wilson was actually solid. He did not make any mistakes, and he proved to have that dual threat nature as well, something that he actually does a bit better than Kenji Bahar looking at his stats. And Mark Thompson, he had 16 carries for 78 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Justin Hall had 6 receptions for 46 yards. And Anthony Ratliff Williams had 1 reception for 50 yards and a touchdown, so he made his 1 catch count. But the Houston Gamblers, they're actually playing some really good football. Their defense is doing a solid job. Their offense looks pretty dynamic, whether Kenji Bahar or Terry Wilson is in at quarterback. We'll have to see who does play at quarterback this week. But I feel like the Houston Gamblers, even though they're not going to have the home field advantage, it's not going to help either team. I still feel like the Houston Gamblers are playing a bit better right now than the New Jersey Generals. New Jersey's a solid team. I think they'll give Houston a run for their money. But I think the New Jersey Generals are going to fall to 2 and 4, and the Houston Gamblers are going to move to 4 and 2 with a 31-24 win for the Houston Gamblers over the New Jersey Generals. Now, those are the Week 6 USFL games. I'm going with the Memphis Showboats, the Birmingham Stallions, the New Orleans Breakers, and the Houston Gamblers to all get wins this week. All of these teams are really close in the standings, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens down the stretch of the season. I'm really looking forward to the games this week, and they should be a lot of fun. Comment down below what you think about the Week 6 USFL games and which teams you think will win this week and what you think about my picks for this week's games. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.